Hello everyone and welcome to game 2. Oops, let me go ahead and hide that. Hello. You didn't see that. You did not see that timer there. Anyways, hello everyone, this is Crota giving you game 2 in a best of 3 series between Complexity's Naniwa and Evil Genius's Huck here on MLG Antigua Shipyard. Antigua Shipyard, at least the MLG version, does force cross spawns. So it doesn't look like anyone will be playing with any shenanigans whatsoever. No proxy gateway rushes here, even though you pretty much know where your opponent already is. Huck spawning as the red Protoss player at the 2 o'clock position over here. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, correspondingly at the 8 o'clock position, we see Naniwa spawning as the blue Protoss. So once again, Protoss versus Protoss, rounding up the mirror matches. Did a lot of Zorg versus Zerg, then Terran versus Terran, and then finally Protoss versus Protoss. So Protoss versus Protoss on Antigua Shipyard, and we'll see whether or not we'll get a little bit of a longer game. Really, a lot of Protoss games tend to be a lot of one base 4-gate or some variation on a 4-gate, maybe 3-gate with a robotics facility and push. And then if both players really can't deal significant damage, then they try to move on to something else. As you see, Naniwa did scout around in the inside of his base, making sure that there were no pylons, were no gateways, and goes back to mining. Now, taking a look at the base of Huck so far, Huck, and because these players know exactly where the other player is, they're actually delaying their scouting. And this is one of those things where I like and appreciate from high-level play, where you really play the map and the variations of the map. You saw in Tal'Darim Altar, both players scouted, or excuse me, Huck scouted relatively early, and then Naniwa scouted a little bit after that. Because Naniwa and Huck, both players, know exactly where they are, I expect them to scout out a little bit sometime soon, but a little bit later, just because they don't need to blindly scout in the improper direction. We are going to be going into perhaps a Zealot here in just a moment, still chrono boosting out more probes as Huck is going into double assimilators. He is definitely going for a much higher gas build, but Naniwa now doing the same thing. Complexity Naniwa. If you didn't know, Naniwa did change his teams from Dignitas to Complexity, something that even MLG somehow forgot. And also somehow, for some reason, all of these replays say that Huck is part of Team Gosu, or Gosu Huck, and I definitely know that is not the case, as we now have a Zealot on the ramp. Now, taking a look at all of this, Naniwa does have this early Zealot, and this is more of a change in build depending on what you saw in the last previous matchup. Because of that early Zealot Stalker pressure, Huck was able to hide 2 pylons in the inside of his opponent's base and then really apply that pressure much earlier. Naniwa wanting to learn from that mistake, getting that early Zealot and making sure that nothing is really going to happen there, as we now see a Stalker make his way out. That Stalker will make his way out in just a moment, try to get up that ramp, but it will take a little bit of damage. Most likely will just be superficial damage, taking perhaps 2 to 3 shots from the other Stalker, and the shields will naturally regenerate. So we are going to see a Zealot. The Stalker now making his way up, is going to fight over here, going to take 1 or 2 shots. That Zealot's going to back off, knowing that his shields will recharge. And now we are getting another probe, and now this Stalker of Huck wanting to make sure that there are no proxy pylons on the inside of his base as well. Naniwa going into a variation. He is going into 2-gate with a Twilight Council, so it will really depend on Blink Micro. There is a pylon warping in over here, and interesting that it's warping in over here. I do not think that it actually has the ability to warp in onto that high ground, even if there is sight just beyond range. Not quite sure what Huck really plans on doing that with that, as we now see that, oh, Huck was able to push in with a probe here, and the probe will be able to warp in another pylon. That is just a backup pylon here as the battle does ensue. You can now see Naniwa currently trying to get that blink. As soon as blink is finished, I believe Naniwa is going to have a definite advantage, but 3 Stalkers against 2, this is not a good fight here. Stalkers now going to make their way up. Sentries may get off a couple free shots there. and no real damage whatsoever. The sentry animation, though, the sentry animation, that little particle beam, is going to force all of these stalkers to go home. They do not want to walk up that ramp, as a zealot now looking for some stalkers sees the stalkers back on the ramp there. Naniwa's currently slightly behind, but he does have 2 additional probes, so that will put him a little bit ahead, as now both players going into a robotics facility, and Huck now the first one to expand. So Huck, after applying all of that early pressure, will Naniwa spot that other pylon there? As soon as this pylon finishes warping in, he may spot that there. I don't think he will necessarily be within range, though, as the zealots are now looking around, and we'll see what Naniwa's pressure and tactic is going to be. The longer the game goes now, the better it will be for Huck, as he does have this nexus, and he's going to be able to establish a very strong economy in just a moment. You can see that there is this proxy pylon here. It is being revealed, and we'll see what's going to be happening as Huck now also moves into Blink. Blink already completed for Naniwa's stalkers down over here, and now there is an observer moving out. The observer should catch sight of anything onto the high ground, perhaps taking down this pylon as well, as Naniwa has to be very, very careful as he pushes out across this map. He wants to make sure he doesn't get flanked. Stalkers are now simply going to come up here and now shoot down this pylon. That pylon quickly going to get taken down, as we also see an observer coming in from Huck. So Huck also within the observer going to start revealing some of the play over here, but it's going to get taken out very, very quickly. Nice spotting by Naniwa, keeping track of the minimap. And now you're going to see all of these stalkers finish off this pylon here. And now Huck may end up being supply block. So Huck in a little bit of trouble as a Nexus finally comes in here. The Nexus already up and running for Huck. And it looks like he was able to transfer some probes over and has had that Nexus up for a while now. Stalkers now making their way over. You can see that there are Stalkers and Sentries on the ramp. Naniwa with a slight advantage now, as Huck finally warping in some additional pylons to replace the ones that he did lose here. And now the Stalkers will straight up blink up onto that high ground. Excuse me. There you go. Stalkers blinking straight up onto the high ground, now taking down 1 Stalker, 2 Stalkers quickly taken down here, and now perhaps trying to take down some of those pylons. 1 pylon does not get taken down. The probe, the observer, now being forced to try to hide. The observer, however, did take a lot of damage as the sentries are now engaging, and there's a nice blink away. And now the sentry could get a force field, and it does get a force field on the ramp. So the force field on the ramp, and there's another blink coming in. Stalkers blinking down. The sentry's unable to engage, as Naniwa beautifully force fielding the ramp there, and both sides are still engaging here. Stalkers are blinking back to try to conserve and keep up on their DPS, but it looks like Huck will be able to handle this pretty easily. Harvester kills, though, 10 worker kills by Naniwa, 0 for Huck. And even though Naniwa is going to lose many of his units, I do believe that Naniwa does come out ahead, as he has 29 probes compared to 19, and he has his second Nexus up as well. Huck going back, making sure that there are no proxy pylons on this ramp over here. That's always one of the dangers, where if a Protoss player chases after these units, tries to get this 1 kill, a new round of units could warp in right behind, and then just start harassing your probes once more. Now, taking a look at the food count, 53 compared to 84, 33 probes compared to 24. So Naniwa dealing the necessary damage by running or blinking in and taking down some of those probes. Beautifully done. Unfortunately, wasn't able to take down this pylon, down to 9 hit points, as we now see the Stalkers are able to shoot up onto this high ground and quickly take it down. Will those Stalkers try to blink up, though? I cannot imagine they would want to, as those Stalkers, and the Stalker blink cooldown would be, I believe it's 20-second or a 10-second cooldown, and 10 seconds is a lot of time to pass, as they are just getting pummeled by superior forces. Immortals now being trained. Naniwa 74 over 84, Huck 55 over 76. Still a 9 Harvester advantage by Naniwa. Naniwa is not chrono boosting out probes. He's not even training probes right now, so he's not going to continue to have a very strong economic advantage, as we are now going into Immortals. A very large army coming in through the front door. Huck able to just simply walk into the space, and there is 1 Immortal, 2 Immortals. There are some force fields as the Stalkers are going to try to engage. No massive units, as the Nexus may get destroyed here. Stalkers are able to blink around. More force fields should be coming in, and it looks like this sentry is out of energy, but the force fields have already been laid down. Stalkers engaging. and it looks as though the Stalkers will be able to push that attack back. Harvester count starting to even up a little bit as Naniwa now finally continuing his Harvester and Probe production. Twilight Council being re-established. Was it... what the heck is Huck? Not quite sure what Huck's doing. Huck is now warping in a Twilight Council here. Yeah, that's gotta be a huge mistake by Huck. Not quite sure why you would want to. If you want Zealot Charge and Blink at the same time and you really want it for some sort of timing, you could warp in too, but that is just wasted resources now. He perhaps wanted a Templar Archives, or he wanted a Dark Shrine. Most likely a Dark Shrine, I would say at this point, as Psystorm not nearly that effective, and then Dark Templars can still emerge into Archons, as Archons are still very, very nice, very, very powerful units as they take reduced damage from Stalkers. Stalkers now pushing across the center. This is not going to be a good engagement as the Stalkers do see first, and there's the blink away, and now getting in some pick-off damage, but really nothing lost there. It looks like the Stalkers' shields were depleted, and that was essentially it. The Pylon, Stalkers, and Observer now pulling back. No one has established their third base yet. There are a lot of Immortals, and you now see a Naniwa just gonna start going crazy into Immortals, as we now see double Templar Archives on both sides and 5 gateways. So Naniwa warping in many more gateways. He's gonna be able to replenish his units very quickly. Even if his entire army gets destroyed, he can just warp them all in 5 seconds and then continue that pressure as a proxy pylon has been established down over here. Stalker is perhaps looking to blink up onto that high ground. The robotics facility in a very precarious location. It can get focused down rather quickly, as we now see the Stalkers are in the center portion of the map. The Stalkers may try to blink up. Not quite sure, as this probe now runs around, and the Stalkers are on the inside of the base. Gonna go ahead and focus down this robotics facility. It looks as though the Stalkers are just gonna focus on the robotics facility and take it down, but Naniwa with a beautiful cutoff now able to just shoot it down, and beautifully done. Naniwa just gonna continue to follow and get in even more damage, as I believe a Zealot and a whole bunch of sentries were able to take down one scouting probe on the far side. Naniwa now 45-41. The Harvester advantage has started to even out even more, as we now see Archons, Immortals, Stalkers, Zealots. The Stalkers once again trying to be in the front. The Immortals now with a range of 6, much more powerful, able to fight back and deal a lot of damage, as the Archons take reduced damage from those Immortals as well. So the Archons are really the meat shields, and in addition to the Zealots, while the Immortals and the Stalkers are all the range units and all the rage, gonna try to deal all of that damage there, as we now see a third Nexus and base coming in. Sentries and Zealots are attempting to take down these destructible rocks over here. Zealots are going to finish off this Zealot down over here, as what does it look like? A massive force now moving straight across the center, and I do not believe Huck was ready for this at all. There is proxy pylons over here. Zealot's going to be warping in along the north as the battle does engage, and now the massive units just able to destroy all of those force fields, as the Stalkers and Immortals are fighting back and forth. It looks like Huck completely out of position, not ready for 6 Immortals, as those Immortals have just dealt so much damage, and Huck losing his Archons, and there is the GG. So the Immortal, a range of 6, dealing 50 damage a pop, completely catching Huck off guard, and there is the GG for this game, as we now move into a deciding Game 3 in this best of 3 series. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.